Here we are again, David Horn's chat number 3. I hope you're finding them interesting. I'm in my library, or part of my library today. This one, we're going to be chatting about the first written accounts of bending steel as a feat of strength. Now, most people sort of understand the steel bending as a modern day hobby, brought about in the sort of last maybe 50 years, and especially with the advent of Iron Mind and various other organisations bringing in steel bending certificates and contests and the like. But way before that, this current trend, in the last century, there was many great athletes who did steel bending as part of their shows. Namely a few like the Amazing Samson, Alexander Zast, and the Mighty Atom, Joe Greenstein. But there was many. In fact, that's what you would do performing on the stage. Was one of the feats would be bending something. But even way before these legends were born, there were feats of strength being done by people. So if we pop right back to the Georgian period, to the 18th century, you know, funny wigs, crazy King George, there would have been the feats of strength being done by the likes of Thomas Topham of London and Willie Carr from the northeast, two prodigious strength machines who, you know, at that particular time ruled the roost. Incidentally, I am about halfway through writing a book actually titled Steel Bending, Ancient Times to World War II. That's the kind of period, so right back from the beginning to 1939. Hopefully it'll be finished sometime this year. Incidentally, I've done a lot of research on Thomas Topham in the past and wrote a book maybe about 20 years ago about Thomas Topham. Fascinating subjects, these guys. And we're on Topham, who was born in the 18th century. Topham did many strength feats, some insanely notable ones, the lifting of the 3 big barrels on a stage and all sorts of things. But his steel bending were mainly bending pokers and rolling up the pewter dish and crushing pewter tankards. Some of those he did for in front of esteemed, you know, medical world of the time, and so we have some fantastic handwritten accounts and all sorts of stuff. And on one of the particular things, the pewter dish, they even have the particular noted medical people of their time signed it, and I'll talk about that one in a minute. So the pokers were usually about 1 yard long, 3 inches in circumference, and usually bent around the neck or whatever. And we know that because I have lots of accounts of his shows and etc. Handbills. You've got to be down in London. You've got to go to the British Museum and the British Newspaper Library and the British Library. Sorry, all these particular places. These are where I was doing lots of research, and also provincial libraries. In among all my sort of research, I was really lucky, ironically, in Stafford to come across a previously undocumented eyewitness account of Topham's exhibition at Wolverhampton, which is just down the road. This was 19th of February, 1736, and it was a diary. It was a diary by of Dr. Wilkes' diary, handwritten. So he just wrote it that night or that morning about him going to watch Thomas Topham in performing. And obviously it had an array of other sort of strength, documented strength feats that he watched. But the one I thought you'd be interested in, and I'll read it off because, as I said, this is February the 19th, 1736. And it's written in quite old English, but not ridiculously old English, just some of the wording. I saw at Woodhampton, well, basically Wolverhampton, one Mr. Topham, a Londoner who did several surprising things by his uncommon strength. He bent an ordinary iron poker round his neck and then released himself immediately. He bent another above 3 inches in circumference by striking it upon his left arm several times. He squeezed a pewter pot together with his right hand and at the same time tore off the handle with his left. He rolled up a pewter dish of 7 pound weight with his hands like a sheet of paper. Now, do you imagine that you've gone to, and this is 1736, and you've gone to watch this. You know, we haven't got the plethora of athletes who are doing strength feats left, right and centre now. But at this time, this must have been his highlight of his day or week or year or whatever. As I said, Topham rolled up many dishes, and he did one in particular in front of a lot of esteemed people, and they all signed it. And I tried really hard to find this one because it was meant to be at the British Museum. And it is, and it was, and I've rung them up and they've lost it. But prior to that, he rolled it up in a Mitre Tavern in London, 1737, 3rd of April. This was sold in 1806, 5th of July, along with the Thomas Pewter mug to the Laverian Museum. The next time I find it, it's 1875, mentioned as being part of the British Archaeological Association's collection. And then it's circa 1903 is mentioned as being housed in the British Museum, London. Unfortunately, the times I have contacted them, they have been unable to find it. And it's a real shame. I have a picture of it, so you will see a photograph of it in the catalogue, etc. from a long time ago, the catalogue being in the 1800s, I think it was. And so, you know, that'll be a great thing to see. If we pop on to Willie Carr, who was primarily up in the northeast, born in 1756, his particular things was modelling around poker. So when you are bending things that people understand, that's why even still now people understand a 6-inch nail. So Willie Carr, you know, he was a giant of a man, and he's also famous for lifting the Blue Stone, which is outside the Delaval Arms public house, which is still in place today. It was thought to be a Saxon boundary marker, but it is what it is. I was lucky to go up there in 1999 with David Webster there, the BBC Northeast Radio, and quite a lot of other people. So they believed it was weighed about 400 to 440 pounds. It would certainly be around that, because that's what I was certainly lifting at that time. And they got out of the concrete for me, and I lifted it. But back to his steel bending. As I said, he was bending pokers and that. But what is fascinating is that in the Keel Row shopping mall in Blyth, there is a wonderful life-size sculpture in bronze that was made and unveiled in 1992, which is there. You can see it's a superb sculpture of and he's bending a big bar. And we finally drop back even before the 18th century, Georgian people in their wigs, and we see the first account of steel bending being written down in a book in 1550, with the second edition in 1568. Just shortly after the person had died. But this is Vasari's book, The Lives of the Most Excellent Painters, Sculptors and Architects, sometimes known as The Lives. And in one of those particular artists is the famous Renaissance man, Leonardo da Vinci. And da Vinci, you know, was an incredible person. What he did in his life, his paintings, his sculptures, his drawings, his inventions, he just was never not thinking. But he was also very much liked as well, quite a man's man. And in the section about Leonardo da Vinci, it states, this is it translated because Vasari's book is in Italian, by his physical force, he, Leonardo, could restrain any outburst of rage, and with his right hand he twisted the iron ring of the doorbell or a horseshoe as if it was lead. And there we go. No doubt before that people bent things, just like people lifted stones as soon as there was a stone. But that's the earliest account of steel bending in its form that we kind of know something now. Hope you enjoyed that one. Take care. Bye-bye.